welcome to Brighter Rays. This week we are looking at Genesis chapter 49, and this study is called Jacob the Prophet. So we're looking at the whole chapter of 49 this week, the prophecy, the blessing of Jacob. So let's get into our introduction for this study. Now, Jacob said that few and evil were his days. This was the assessment of his life that he gave to the Pharaoh. He had lived for 130 years and saw that his body was deteriorating faster than his father. Doubtless, he had heard of the stories of his ancestors, of his grandfather Abraham, that was alive when Shem was alive. He lived to be to be 600 years old. And Shem was alive when Methuselah was alive. And Methuselah was alive when Adam was alive. His life in comparison to them was merely a moment compared to those that came before him. And Jacob began to feel the cold of death approaching on him. And he knew his time on earth was coming to an end. God had given him 17 years in the land of Egypt. He saw that his family began to grow, and he saw that God was with him, and that God was with the next generation, and the next generation after that. And so Jacob begins to set things in order as he prepares to exit this world and then move on to the next. Now, Jacob's knowledge of his impending death was a blessing from God, because it provided him a time for the greater purposes of God to be worked out. Right? God gave him this time so that he could set things in order so that the people of God would know what would be coming. What Jacob does and says in the final days of his life on earth affects and foretells the future. Now, in our chapter today and the next several days, we'll be looking at the final blessing of Jacob upon his sons. It's written in poetic form, which you can tell by the heavy use of imagery and the meter of the sentences. And many translations of the Bible have, they set it apart. It's offset type. So you can tell that, this is kind of a poetic form. But these words are not just a last will and testament of a dying man. They serve as a final restatement of one of the great themes of Genesis. In Genesis 1:28, God blessed mankind and he gave them paradise. But in Genesis chapter 3, Adam rebelled and paradise was lost. His actions brought upon the universe a curse. Yet, even in God's pronouncement of the curse, there was hope. I will put enmity between you and the woman, he said, and between your offspring and her offspring. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. Genesis keeps pointing us ahead. There are reminders of the blessing of God after the flood, at Abraham's calling, at Israel's entrance into his time of sojourning in Egypt. Now, even now, at the end of Jacob's life here, we're reminded of this great truth. The blessing of God upon mankind will be restored. One is coming that will do this. All those who are faithful in Genesis greeted these promises from afar. But the fullness of time would come, and all those things that God promised would come, and the promised one would come, and he would dwell among us. So come back next time. We'll look at 49, 1 through 4, and we'll take a look at the very beginning of this prophecy of Jacob.